We're going to try and put words today to something that is not easy to put words to, that is beyond words. And that is the infinite nature that we have. You can call it different names. If you don't like the word that I use, please translate, but I'll be using the word God, but through a different understanding of the word God. When I say God, I don't mean a guy with a big beard up in the clouds who's looking down upon us and says, "Ah, yes, I will send a flood." I think that's a personification. What I mean by God, it's something that's beyond gender. It's something that gives us life, that is in between the form that we experience here, and in between the atoms and the atoms themselves, in between the celestial bodies and the celestial bodies themselves. It operates in incredible ways with this incredible intelligence, aliveness that is beyond our knowing, but also really beyond our intellectual knowing, because we have a knowing of this already, because we are it. It is our operating principle. And so we know it completely. And I'll be trying to describe the texture, it's hard to put words to, but the quality of this intelligence, of this. I don't even want to call it an entity, because it's not singular. It is everything. It expresses itself. It expresses itself through life, but it also expresses itself through matter. I think that like if I have a brick right here, that there is God in this, but it's expressing differently than through me or through my dog right now, who's right behind the screen. And we can see this expression everywhere we go, but we're seeing it through our own lens. So in describing the quality of this, it's the absence of judgment, which is what I titled this discourse as. That it's the absence of judgment. It is pure understanding, and there's not even room for judgment when there's understanding. And understanding gives way to grace. Always, it has to. And there is so much grace that is underneath the surface of our lives. There's so much understanding. That's why I don't really even like the idea of sin. Because if this if I don't want to call it a being, if this intelligence is pure understanding, it is pure acceptance, really it's love, then it understands even the most atrocious acts. It sees the hurt and the pain and the thinking, the warped thinking that caused it. And it understands. And there's not even a room for judgment. It's just present to what is in our lives. And we come from this place of pure understanding. We're going to go back to it when we change whatever form this is, whatever expression this is. We will change expressions. We will go back to where we came from. And the cool thing about this is that then in our lives, we don't have to get anywhere or do something in order for this to happen. There's no formula for being accepted by this divinity within us, because it's pure acceptance. It's already happened. It's what we were born from, and we can forget it. We do. I think that we are born with this. We have this pure consciousness as children, and then we tend to forget because society forgets that we're raised in. We tend to become a part of the illusion that is our thinking and lose this. But it's always under the surface. It's what's giving us life. And so since you come from it and you go back to it, you don't have to do anything in between. You can. You can wake up to this within you. And if you do, that's awesome. You will get to enjoy this game of life a little bit more fully and a little bit more deeply. But if you don't, you go back to it anyway. That's where there's this amazing trust in life. That's when death isn't scary at all. It's like it's going home. But you can catch your glimpses of home in this life by understanding this a little bit more, by letting yourself reveal it, by clearing away some of the things that get in your way. I like to talk about how now that there's this reservoir of our infinite nature. And it's just, I see it in other people, that it's just over their shoulder. It's right here, right behind them this whole time. It's giving them life. I feel like people kind of have this dam of thinking that they build. And if they were to just let go, that this dam would loosen, you would see, and maybe there would be leaks, I don't know, but really we're pushing against this. It's always presence. It's always kind of pushing against this power of thought that we have. And all we have to do is let go of the thought a little bit more. And it can show up more in our lives. And a little bit more. And the cool part about this is that it's our infinite nature, and the understanding is infinite. We can spend the rest of our lives seeing this. And we're not going to ever see it fully. It goes on and on. And so all you need to do to start to see it is to look in the direction and catch a glimpse of it. You probably catch fleeting glimpses of this in your life, but you don't recognize it. You don't know what it really is. Of course, one of my mystic mentors that I follow is Sid Banks. Talks about how it's a feeling. And that makes sense because you can't put words to this. It's not a sentence or a formula or... I think it's still a thought. But the thought doesn't have words to it. It's a thought from that infinite nature. And it shows up as a feeling. I think that so much of this world is kind of the thought, the expression of this universal presence. I have a hard time calling it a presence too, because that kind of makes you think it's some sort of entity. But the cool part is that everybody has this. It's everybody's operating principle. So it's both at the same time ordinary and miraculous. Isn't that cool? And that means that we're all connected in that way, in this depth. And I can't remember. There's a really great quote that goes, I'm going to butcher it, but it goes something like, we're all infinite beings with the ability to convince ourselves that we're not. We use that ability all the time, kind of constantly. We can create disconnection, isolation, but it's just ice over the surface. No matter how deeply you cocoon yourself in this isolation of thought that you've created for yourself, it's in there too, and it's in there with you. You cannot push it away. You can think you do, but it is what gives you the ability to push it away. and you will go back to it. No matter what, we're all human, we're all finite. This expression will come to an end. I had a bit of an insight this morning that like life expresses itself in time, is one of the ways that it expresses itself. And that's why we live our lives in time. This God can express itself in using time as the background. But I kind of like the idea. I feel like this is true, that it is also beyond time. That there is no time in this knowing. And there is a difference too between having faith, believing in this, and knowing it. I was listening to Carl Jung, and they said, do you have faith? And he said, I used to. And then they asked him, well, do you have faith now? And he says, well, no, it's hard to describe. I just know. And I think that is what's underneath the surface of our confusion, of our intellectual mind, is that knowing. We know it all already. And that's cool. Then life isn't about learning. You can't, it's, and you'll go back to it. So it's not even about like unlearning and remembering. I think it's just about living then. You can live and experience. The nature of this. I think it's curious. I think it's playful. I think it's funny. I think it's loving. I know it's loving. We're able to judge ourselves. Everybody says, oh, love yourself. You have to love yourself. And then people try and love themselves and do love practices and say, I love myself. I wrote for probably a full year in a journal, day in and day out, every single night. I love myself. I am enough. I am worthy. I'm worthy of love. But it was being given to me. And the whole time, I didn't have to write a single word. I just had to remember. Just had to remember what I had forgotten. I am just awed by it. You can see it wherever you go, because you are it. You take it with you. And that's so funny that people try to find it. It's like looking under a rock. Is it under here? Is it in the church? Not that church, it can be, maybe, but you don't go to the church and find it. You find it within yourself if you find it in the church. Is it in yoga or spirituality? It is giving, ever giving. You can't outgive it. You cannot repay its debt. It doesn't expect that. It just gives. That's nature. It gives life, love, knowing, and you can find a richer experience of life when you see it within yourself, when you are able to clear away the clutter. But you don't have to. You don't have to. It understands. It is the absence of judgment. And the absence of judgment is love. And love is pure understanding.
Thank you for listening to the Rich Life Realization Podcast. May these conversations help you experience your richest life. To contact me about being a guest on the podcast or about coaching, email me richliferealization@gmail.com or text or call 970-716-0075.